On the 1st of March 2000, while doing a welfare check, police entered into John Price's house. One of the officers passed through what he thought was a curtain that separated the kitchen from the living room. The officer was puzzled as to why it was wet and it was dripping. On closer inspection, he saw that it was human skin. After entering into the kitchen, they noticed a pot on the stove that was still warm. This pot contained John Price's head. This is the story of Katherine Knight. Welcome all in to the MO Dark. Hello and welcome all into the MO Podcast Dark. And as always, you're here with me, Consummation.
And me, Atreya. Do I have to fuck up my intro as well?
You may notice my voice is a little bit raspy because I've been screaming into a pillow.
He had it coming. What can I say?
Yes, that just gives you the kind of thing. Heads up about the kind of thing we're going to talk about and what I have to deal with.
Likewise, Mara.
So today we are talking about Katherine Knight.
Oh, God.
So, Katherine
I
Knight,
love this woman.
yes, is the only female in Australian criminal history to ever be given a life term imprisonment without the possibility of parole. And on the basis of the crime, it is probably about right, to be honest.
I just want to put a disclaimer out there that when I said I love this woman, I don't mean I love this woman in that I love what she did, because it was fucking heinous and it was bad. It was terrible. But
Backtracking.
yeah, no, but the ingenuity was like, I wish I thought of it first kind of deal. It was horrible. It was a horrible thing to do. She should have really done it to the guy in our last episode. You know, the cult
Yes.
guy. She should have done it to him. Like, if she'd have done it to, like, him or, like, maybe it's Charles Manson or Fred West or, you know, some proper douchebag rather than a guy that actually was pretty cool, you know, then yes, totally would have been awesome. But she just kind of picked the wrong guy. And I feel like, really, at this point, I feel like maybe if she'd had that cult douchebag as a husband, or he'd had Fred West as a husband, maybe, you know, this whole thing would have been warranted.
Indeed, indeed. And to be honest with you, Knight was probably as much as a victim of circumstance, because it was kind of due to her childhood that she was moulded into the person that she became. I mean,
Dude, Ed Kemper said that.
yeah, I know, but I think Ed had a mummy fascination, whereas Knight,
It's always based on childhood. We know this.
I know, but like Knight, so Katherine Knight was born in 1955, and it was as a result of an affair that her mother had with her husband's best friend. Now, they lived in a small town in New South Wales, which was called Aberdeen in Australia, and both families were very well known in their community, and the townspeople were obviously, as with any small town, were very conservative, and there was some backlash, obviously, as you may expect, and Barbara and Knight's father, biological father, Ken, were forced to move away and start up life elsewhere. Now, Katherine Knight was a twin, and twins are mad anyway.
Whoa! I know twins. They do the whole, I love you, I love you. I did it to my sister. I was like, hi, just calling to see how you are. I love you. And she went, fuck off, and put the phone down on
Exactly.
me.
So twins are mad.
They're
So
like regular siblings, yeah.
yeah. So unfortunately, her father Ken was violent, and he apparently raped Barbara multiple times a day. Never mind a week. This was a day. Knight herself was sexually abused by family members at the age of 11, and as she was descended from Aboriginal heritage, she was also racially abused within the community. So there's a lot of trauma going on, but it led her to be lonely at school, a loner, and rather than receding back into that, she actually became a bully, and she fought with a boy, used a weapon on him. She was injured by a teacher, but the teacher was found to be acting in self-defense because she was that violent. Now, when she wasn't in a rage and when she wasn't that pissed off with the world, she was actually seen as a model student. She left school at 15, but apparently without being able to read or write.
How can you be a model student without being able to read or write?
Yeah, it seems a little bit counterintuitive, that one.
Did you have a knife at a teacher's throat? The head teacher, like, write on my record of achievement that I could read and write. Just pass me.
Probably. I just want to leave school. That's it.
Yeah.
So she took a job at a clothing factory, and this didn't last long, and a year later she apparently took up a perfect job of working in an abattoir. So already,
wow.
Yeah, you may be thinking how this is gonna pan out, really.
I hate this so much.
She actually loved her job so much that her first set of knives that she was given to her, she would hang above her bed because they would always be handy if she needed them.
Like, I'm just going to put it out there for all the vegetarians and vegans and animal lovers in the world. I love animals so much more than people, okay? If the world was wiped out and I was only left with animals, I would be fine, okay? If there was if a dog or a cat was falling off a cliff and a family member of mine was falling off a cliff, I don't fancy the chances of the family member, okay? I would always go for the cat or the dog. This is how much of an animal lover I am, okay? So this woman is a fucking psycho, okay? I am all about the animals and not so much about the people, okay? Not in fact, not at all about the people. People generally suck. Although, to be fair, right, I did drive past these couple of old ladies earlier on, and the wind was so strong that she had this straw hat on, and it blew her straw hat off and down the street, right? And she was kind of like, and her and her friend kind of backtracked to get this straw hat, but then they realized that they might be late for the bus, so they just kind of went, oh, it doesn't matter, and kind of carried on running for the bus. And this kid came out of nowhere and ran for this straw hat, picked the straw hat up and chased these women down the street, and they were like, here's your straw hat. And it did restore my faith in humanity. But overall, I have no faith in humanity, so I will always be on the side of the animals. So please do continue with the abattoir scenario.
Yeah, I was going to say I've done a butchery course, and to be honest with you, it didn't really do anything for me. I wouldn't describe it as my best job, but means to an end, isn't it? So, in 1974, Knight married David Keller. Now, he was a co-worker at the abattoir, and he also had trauma that he suffered from in his past. He was a heavy drinker, but this kind of stemmed from the fact that he saw his best friend killed in front of him during a train accident. He witnessed a train smashing into a school bus, and he went on to try and save the children that were in there, but he could only get so many out, and 6 children actually died in this. So, unfortunately, when David had a drink, he did like to throw hands about. And on one of their first dates, David and Knight's first date, he started a fight, and Knight actually jumped in and backed him up by throwing hands as well. So this kind of endeared them to each other. Now, I wouldn't say that their marriage was a shotgun wedding, but Knight asked David, which isn't that surprising. But the word that I kept coming across in the research was she insisted they get married.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Yes. The second red flag may be seen as the couple turned up on the day of the wedding on Knight's motorcycle she was driving, because David was notably pissed and he was a heavy drunk. So I can only imagine how much he had been drinking for people to go, fucking hell, he's a bit...
He was hanging off the motorbike like...
dragging along with his head bouncing off the floor.
Yeah.
The third red flag could be perceived as Knight's mother Barbara giving David some advice. She said, "You better watch this one or she'll fucking kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you fucked. Don't ever think of playing up on her. She'll fucking kill you."
I mean, I feel like that's just a mum thing to say. I feel like my mum would say that to Dave, you know? I feel like she probably has said that to Dave. She's probably said that to Dave about herself as well as me. You know, I just feel like that's a mum thing to say.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Mums are very, like, lioness cub about their kids, even if their kids are total psychos. You know, like, I feel like my mum probably has had a conversation with Dave, like, I'm just saying now, if you and a sheep that's random that she's never met before are falling off a cliff, I don't fancy your chances. She'll save the sheep. And I probably would, okay, because I'm all about the animals. So I'm just saying, mums are, they always see the best in their little girls, okay?
Fair enough.
It might not always be right, but they always do.
I think threatening that your daughter's going to kill you on before you've even said I do is a bit of a worry, but fair enough.
Maybe she's just giving him the heads up, like
exactly. Just
don't piss her off.
Just so you know
Let
what
her
you're getting
have
into.
the remote.
Yeah. Just,
let her have the remote. Don't ask her to make you pack lunch, and for fuck's sake, don't ask her to warm your socks by the fire or have your tea on the table for when you come in from work. Just don't do it. It's not worth it, okay? Because she'll end your life, and it might sound like a bit of a joke and a bit of a, you know, oh, she'll end your life, but she actually will. Yeah. She actually will. She'll string you up and end your life.
She'll fucking kill you.
Yeah.
But even their wedding night was a little bit of a mess because not due to the normal excess and non-performance, it was the fact that David didn't perform enough, apparently. He only did it 3 times with Knight, and she found that to be not as well as what her mother had on her wedding night, because Barbara told her she'd had it 6 times.
Okay, firstly, I feel... Go on.
She wanted to break records.
I feel like, firstly, Barbara was fucking lying, okay? Yeah. She's a fucking liar. I don't believe it for a second. And secondly, I feel like Katherine had watched Ace Ventura. You know that moment when Ace Ventura and Courtney Cox have had sex and she throws the covers back and she goes, 5 times? And he goes, I know, I must be getting tired. I feel like she'd seen that because I saw that movie, right, well before I was like sex age, and that sort of set a precedent for me. I thought that was normal. I thought, well, if Ace does it only 5 times a night, that's normal. So personally, for me, I feel like this is on Jim Carrey. Like, Jim, you're amazing and I love you, but you've set so high a precedent for girls all across the world that their men can never live up to. So I feel like you've pretty much ruined relationships forever. But I do still love you. You did great in Sonic.
I can't even raise the energy to smile 5 times a day. Never mind raise the energy to do anything else.
Yeah, but I know. But Ace has already he's made that he's made that benchmark now. So now any girl that has seen Ace Ventura, that is our benchline expectations. I am with her on this. This is our benchline expectations. And the fact is, it's not a thing. Okay, nobody can do this. And girls that grew up watching Ace don't realize, yeah, no, it's a comedy, and even Ace really can't. He can't do it that many times. No man could do it that many times. In like, if you are a guy who can do it that many times, please comment below. But don't be fake. Okay, don't be one of those guys that's like
subscribe, and comment.
I can do it 5
if you
times,
can do it more than 5 times a night.
Because we won't fall for your bullshit. Okay,
Yeah.
just I don't know anybody that is capable of doing that. Okay, I'm just saying. I just think Ace raised the bar, and I feel Catherine's I feel her issues with this. Okay, because
indeed.
Yeah.
So, taking into consideration this marriage was 30 years before the film Ace Ventura came out,
okay.
the marriage was not a great one. It started off violently, and not in the way you'd think, because Knight burned all David's clothes. She twatted him in the back of the head with a frying pan, like Wile E. Coyote style, when he was late back from a darts match. But apparently they still had a child together in 1976. So he hung around for what was more than fucking 3 years. After Melissa Ann was born, which was a child, David decided to move to Queensland with another woman. It was a bit of a shit move, but I mean, he was going through a lot of abuse on a daily basis. Now, as you can imagine, this may have had a knock-on effect with Catherine's mental health, and she was seen pushing Melissa in a pram, but not in the nice little way. She was swinging it violently from side to side. She was reported, sectioned, and diagnosed with postnatal depression. And after several weeks, she recovered. And on Knight's release, she was placed after excuse me. After several weeks from recovering, Knight was placed Melissa Ann on a railroad track. She then went on an axe rampage, threatening to kill anyone that got in her way. Now, amazingly, a local hobo named Old Ted saw Melissa on the track and rescued her before a train could come by. Now, after this outburst, Knight was obviously hospitalised again, but the very next day she was deemed well enough to sign herself out. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the doctors at this hospital or what kind of hospital it was, whether it was 2 Point Hospital on the PC or what. But
It was definitely Theme Hospital. It wasn't even 2 Point Hospital. It was Theme Hospital.
yeah.
What person is sectioned and then the next day goes, I'm fine, and gets to check themselves out? That's not.
No, but
I think that's the thing.
any guesses on what she did next? She took a family hostage, slashed the mother in the face, and demanded that they drive to Queensland to find David. Now, the family managed to let her drop their son off at a service station, and as soon as they did that, the authorities were alerted, and amazingly enough, they were able to disarm her with brooms.
Sorry, what?
Exactly. Now, it creates a beautiful visual, but she had an axe and these police officers had brooms. I don't know if the Benny Hill theme music was playing in the background while they were doing this,
I
or...
hope so. I kind of feel like it's that, you know, that scene at Hocus Pocus where the Sanderson sisters are all stood outside the house and they're all like ready, and the villagers are all there with their pitchforks and brooms. I kind of feel like it's that, like she stood outside going, and they're all stood outside with their broomsticks and pitchforks, like, and it's one of those. But there's 3 of the Sanderson sisters and only 1 of her, so unless she was Bette Midler, which I don't think she was. I feel like she was. I feel like she was Kathy Najimy. She's definitely not the best Sanderson sister. So she would have got like absolutely annihilate with broomsticks. Even if she had an axe.
But I mean, I can't imagine these police being called to a hostage situation and thinking their best defense were brooms. Like,
I guess it depends what size town are we looking at here. If we're looking at a town that doesn't really do a lot with hostage situations, they're like, "Where's the riot gear?" And they're like, "Well, we have a Hoover, but don't take that because we'll need that later on to do the cleaning. That's our only Henry. We have a couple of. There's a fire extinguisher. Oh no, don't take the fire extinguisher because we might need that in case there's a fire. But there's a couple of brooms and a mop there. I don't know. You could make the best of a bad situation.
Exactly.
But you're not having a fucking Henry, you know?
Yeah, it was just bizarre visual. David was informed of this incident, and mainly because obviously it was a threat to his life. And he moved out with his girlfriend and moved back in with his mother to actually take care of Katherine Knight. Now, Knight was released from care in 1976. She took up another job at an abattoir, which, when you consider that she's taken hostages using an axe, and she is very well versed in knife work. Do you think that's a good job for her to take? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe psychoanalysts might think it's the best job for her to take because she's taken out her anger and her, you know, frustration on dead things. That she's hacking and slashing like, I hate you so much. But they're already dead, maybe?
It could be, yeah.
I feel like she should have taken up kickboxing, but this is an alternative, I guess.
Yeah, I just think all sharp things should have been taken away from her. But,
well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. So, by 1986, even though Knight and David had another daughter, she left him and started a romance with David Saunders. Now, Saunders moved in with Knight, but he kept his apartment because maybe he knew what was going to happen. But this, unfortunately, infuriated Knight as she was suspicious as what he got up to when she wasn't around. So,
dating other Daves.
Yep. So, just to make sure that David Saunders knew Knight wasn't messing around, she slit his 2-month-old dingo's throat in front of him and gave him an ultimatum. Yeah. Don't be cheating on me or this is what happens. And she slit a baby dingo. Yeah. Even after this, they stayed together and had a daughter. So I've got no idea what's going on here. But he did leave shortly after the birth because Knight tried to murder him with a pair of scissors. She stabbed him twice in the chest.
He kind of should have got that with the dingo. Okay, just right.
Yeah.
I think we should have some sort of disclaimer here, right? So for anybody who is in a relationship with somebody who thinks it's okay to hurt animals, okay, firstly, it's fucking not okay to hurt animals. It's worse to hurt animals than to hurt a human being. And secondly, if you hurt animals, you then go on, more often than not, to hurt people.
McDonald's Triad.
It's the McDonald's Triad, yes. If you know somebody who hurts animals, the chances are they will then go on, 90% of the time, to hurt human beings. So bin them off or kill them. That would be much easier. Just kill them. Just end their life. And then they're not doing any animals any hurt. And they're certainly not going to go on to hurt any people. Just end them.
I'm just going to combat that by saying don't murder them. Just report them to the RSPCA or local authorities. I mean, just so...
I say murder them.
You're safe. But yeah. So after this, her third and penultimate relationship was with John Chillingworth. While it was kind of sedate in comparison, John actually left her when he found out she was having an affair with John Price.
She loves the double names, doesn't she? Dave and Dave and John and John.
Yeah. So in 1995, John Price moved in with Katherine Knight. John's two daughters live with him, and they like Knight for all intents and purposes. And for the first couple of years, everything was fine, and it was, quote, a bunch of roses. It was in 1998 when John turned down Knight's offer of marriage. Again, she's offering him to marry her, or insisting that they marry, that the roses started to wilt. So Katherine took this as a slight, and to get back at Price, she framed him for stealing company stock. Now, even though he'd been with the company for 17 years, the fact that he had taken items that were out of date and he had actually gone dumpster diving in the company's waste bins, he was still sacked from his job because of the evidence that Katherine produced. Now, he kicked her out. Well done. Stay strong, my friend. But a few months later, the roses started to smell a little bit better, and they got back together. But he did refuse to let her move back in with him.
Good on him.
Yeah, but this is where the violence and the argument started to escalate. It culminated in February 2000 when Knight attempted to stab John in the chest. He took out a restraining order against Knight and even went so far as to tell co-workers that if he failed to show up for work, Knight would have killed him. Unfortunately, that was foreshadowing, because on February the 29th, 2000, leap year, John arrived home. He checked in with the neighbours, had a few beers with them, and then he got back around 11 p.m, went to bed. Knight arrived at the house sometime later, had a shower, did what all them femme fatales do, put on some sexy negligee, and then went to knock boots with John. After 2 times, so they've all got stamina in this. I don't know what they feed
Apparently.
them. The Australian lads must be just fucking...
You're just a bit gel, and
I tell you. But I don't understand why it's recorded and why... Anyway, but...
why it was such a big deal.
Exactly, but that's one of the least weird things about this case, about the amount of time she's had sex or whatever.
Is it almost like the police are going, well, it was kind of the guy's fault all along. Like, they just couldn't match your stamina, so I don't know what they were expecting, really.
I should have done it 4 times. I mean...
yeah.
If
they'd just been up to scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, John obviously fell asleep, because who wouldn't? After one time.
Oh my god, no!
And then Knight slipped out and went to get one of her work knives. She entered the bedroom. She stabbed John 37 times. Now, evidence does suggest that he woke up during the attack, but he couldn't fight her off due to the ferocity of her attack. Knight then dragged John's bodies downstairs, skinned him in the kitchen, hung him from a meat hook, decapitated him, and took 2 choice cuts off his body and put them in a stew.
It was a slow cooker, wasn't it?
It was on the top. It was more a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best way to cook meat.
Yeah. Best way to do it. You heard it here first.
It is best way. Yeah, pressure cooker, slow cooker. It's good if you've got places to be and things to do, you know. It's just handy.
Falls apart in your mouth.
It really does.
After the neighbours and co-workers raised the alarm, because John had failed to show up for work, he was very regular. He usually checked in with his neighbours before he went to work, and he hadn't missed a day. The police were called, and they made the discovery. There was blood on the front porch, which was said to be where he almost got outside, but then was dragged back in. They found 2 plates of food made up and laid out in the kitchen with the names of John's daughters next to them, which meant that whatever was cooked in the stew was laid out for John's daughters, who were luckily at a sleepover the night before.
So she was going to have like a family meal or something with them, with place names like, hey, look, here's where you're sitting, and oh, I hope you really enjoy the meal. It's, you know, it's creme de la pear. You know.
Yeah. It's weird because who the fuck eats stew at like 9 in the morning for a start? And
yeah.
B, she'd actually taken a lot of pills and had overdosed. She was sleeping next to John's decapitated, skinless body on the floor.
But if she'd overdosed, surely she wouldn't be able to get up the next morning and make John's stew.
Yeah, but then what are the kids gonna do? Fucking walk over that and go, no, I'm starving. I'll deal with that in a minute. I just need stew for breakfast. It's the way I roll.
I mean, this stew is like by the by. That's like they're gonna forget about the stew, but like how is she overdosing and then getting up on a morning and making John's stew? She can't have overdosed if that's the case.
Well, no, she didn't overdose. She just took a load of pills, which she thought would make her overdose. But
weren't they sleeping pills?
Yeah, but she didn't take enough of them.
She clearly didn't take enough. She was just like, this stew is really relaxing. Lovely, this. What do you say, John? Huh? You can't speak. You've got no head.
No head.
Chewing. Ah! This is... Yeah. Okay, this is psychotic. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she was taken to the hospital and she was aroused, she claimed that she couldn't remember anything of the previous day's shenanigans. She offered to plead guilty to manslaughter after she was arrested because she claimed it was a bout of amnesia. She didn't know what happened, but the prosecution rejected it. But for some reason, on the eve of the trial, she pled guilty to murder on March the 2nd, 2001. Now, out of the 60 juror prospects for the trial, several dropped out after being told about the nature of the photographic evidence that they would have to witness. So, usually,
surprised.
Yeah, you're not kind of given a choice. You have to go and do it. But because of the sensitivity of the case, and because of the horrendous photos that were taken, these jurors were taken. And there was 60 juror prospects. So at any one time, if any of the 12 jurors dropped out, they were replaced by another one. But they had so many that because they thought the rate would drop out. Now, luckily enough, none of these people had to go through that because she changed her plea to guilty, and she was... On the 8th of November 2001, Justice O'Keefe sentenced Knight to life imprisonment with the files marked never to be released. Now, if you look at the English, or the British system, Myra Hindley and Rose West Myra Hindley was the first and Rose West was the second who have had full life-term tariffs with no possibility of parole. So she's up there with how bad she fucking is. This was due to never to be released. This was due to her lack of remorse and the fact that even despite she pled guilty, she never took responsibility for it. As soon as this judgment was passed down, she appealed the sentence, but basically she appealed the sentence, but she claimed that a penalty of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole was too severe for the killing. That was her argument about it.
Sorry, what? I disagree.
Yeah, and the Justice McLean, who was looking over this appeal, turned around and said, "This was an appalling crime, almost beyond contemplation in a civilized society." Rot in hell, bitch.
Basically, I mean, I think I remember reading when the police first went into the property, the cop went in and he kind of pushed a curtain aside and he carried on walking. He thought, oh, that curtain's a bit wet, and he turned around and it was the skin of the guy, which is fucking horrific. Like, and she was just asleep on the bed. She was just like, oh, did I do something wrong? Like, yeah, you did a little bit of stuff wrong. Yeah, we need to talk about that. But I still feel like, yes, okay, what she did was fucking horrific. It was horrible. Like, oh my god, the trauma is just, the police probably are still in counselling, I guess, even like however many years on, decades later. But at the same time, I still feel like they can't compare her to Myra Hindley and Rose West. I feel like what they did was, okay, so what she did was so bad. It was heinous. It was horrific. It was evil. But what they did was so much worse. Like, they killed so many more people and kids and you know, like, it was all horrible. But
yeah, but then that opens the debate to a capital punishment kind of thing, I think.
Well, yeah.
Really, with like how are you leveling these people? Like, who? It's not like who's at the top. It's not like a Premier League of fucking evil people. But
it's like, who should be punished the most? Like, if
in a country where you don't have capital punishment, I think if you commit a heinous crime, you should never get released. And
no, definitely not.
The fact that she's got life without parole is because she's not claiming responsibility for it. If she would have turned around and went, "Yeah, I did it. I'm messed up in the head. It's because of my childhood." She could have gone to a psychiatric ward and maybe had the opportunity to be released. You know, there's that guy in Canada the bus killer who ate that guy's face on the bus.
Yes.
He's been released. They don't have capital punishment there, so.
Well, apparently one of the kids who, you know, what's his name? Was it James Bulger?
Oh yeah.
One of those guys who did all those horrible things to that little boy, who basically should have been tortured to death in prison because of the horrible things they did to that little boy, is now living in the Witness Protection Act.
Oh no! Well, like, one of them's back in prison. One of them's back in prison for child porn.
Yeah, and one of them is living roundabout near me, apparently. And it's like, how has he even gotten out of? How has he even gone out of jail? How is that okay?
Like, subscribe, and comment, and dox the cunt.
Please do, okay? Because that absolute fucking evil person should never ever have gotten out of jail for what he did to that little boy. That is the evilest of evil. Like, I'm not kid friendly, I'm not human friendly. But what they did to that little boy was just fucking evil. And they should just be in hell or in torture for as long as they live, because they are horrible people. And if you're horrible at that age, you're going to be evil at an older age, and I feel like that's how you rate people. You know, if you do one horrible thing, you should be in prison for life. If you do multiple horrible things, you should just be executed right there and then. Just stop the taxpayers paying. Why are we paying for their Sky TV? Why?
That is, yeah, it is true. I don't, yeah, it's a very good conversation and maybe one for another day. But I don't think that I don't believe in capital punishment. I think rehabilitation is the way to go forward. But some people are beyond saving, and
When it comes to rehabilitation, I guess it depends on the crime. Okay, if you're Demolition Man, rehabilitation is the way forward. Okay. Knitting and that kind of thing, I'm all about that, okay? But if you're Fred fucking West or Ian Brady, rehabilitation is a no-go, okay? And you just get your sparks out like that. There's no real rehabilitation. There's no... If your crime is like that, there is no rehabilitation. You just end it. Just go. Just stop taking our tax money. But if you're Demolition Man, you know, you've saved a lot of people, and it's kind of not your fault that all those buildings got demolished, you know? Just knit and be good, and then fall in love with Sandra Bullock, because who doesn't love Sandra Bullock, and live happily ever after in, you know, the fake sex thing with the helmets. Just do it, okay? Because I'm happy for you that way.
I'll be honest with you. I'm amazed, considering Atreya's never seen a film in her life. She's quoted so many films in these past couple of things. I'm amazed. But yeah, I think rehabilitation is an interesting conversation, but obviously it's not.
It depends what you've done.
I mean, yeah, it depends. Yeah, it does.
It's some people have done really horrifically horrible things, and there is no excuse for that. And
but they didn't know better. They didn't know any better. They weren't taught. Mary Bell.
Myra Hindley and Ian Brady didn't know better.
Some could say Myra Hindley was manipulated.
She was not fucking manipulated.
No, she really wasn't manipulated.
She really was.
She was one of the main agitators of it.
Of course
really.
she
I think
was.
They were both culpable in
they
that
were
crime.
Both as bad as each other, yeah.
But there is an argument to say that maybe some people are manipulated into doing stuff.
And that's fair play. If they can prove that some people were manipulated into it, fair enough, you get life in prison. But for the people who there was no manipulation, we're at this stage. I'm so fucking angry. We're at this stage. So the people where there was no manipulation.
Not angry.
No, I'm.
Go on.
Fine. Okay, so Fred and Rose West. So my previous supervisor, he's retired now, right? But his wife worked at the prison. She worked at the prison where Rose West was held, okay? And I don't know whether she was an administrator or she was what at the prison, or she had something to do with the prison. Every time she went there, she basically was searched. She wasn't allowed to take anything into the cell block with her, and she was told, under no circumstances whatsoever do you talk to Rose West. You don't acknowledge her. You don't speak to her. You don't say even hi. You do not acknowledge Rose West, because she is so manipulative. She's manipulated prison guards, she has manipulated inmates, and she will manipulate you. And from what I read, her and Myra Hindley actually had a relationship in prison, because the pair of them, yes, are that manipulative that they had a relationship. So that is how evil and manipulative these women are, that people physically aren't allowed to speak to them.
But
or acknowledge them.
With them two, they fell out over ego, because they wanted to be the best, and they were competing with each other to be royalty in the prison, to get more letters, to get more people talking to them. Like clout, they basically wanted clout, and because they were together, they couldn't be equal. But then, okay, so you're saying about rehabilitation and culpability and stuff. So go back to the anthill kids. So should Rush Thoreau be the only one charged, or should them people who stood by and did nothing and let these things happen to the people that were in the cult, should they be as culpable as him for murdering that 2-year-old child?
So I definitely think they should be culpable, but not on the level that he was, because I feel like fear is a big part of that whole group. So yes, okay, there's a difference between not being okay with something and not doing anything about it. You might not be brave enough, you might be frightened of the ramifications of, okay, if I stand up, am I going to be killed? Is he going to stab me in the face or whatever? I'll not say anything. That there's a difference between not doing anything and letting it happen and participating and going, yeah, I want to stab this toddler. You know, that's a big, that for me, that's the difference. If you're standing back and going, I'm not okay with this one, too frightened, like, yeah, okay, you deserve life in prison for not, even if it means you get stabbed or something like that. Even if you die, like for me, I would kind of go, I am not okay with this. And I know this sounds ridiculous because, you know, everybody kind of has their own opinion and everybody would be like, well, you could die. But I literally would stand up for what I believe in and go, you're doing wrong and I don't believe in this. Even if it meant me being stabbed in the face or something and dying, I would literally die for what I believe in. Mostly just to prove that I'm right. But also, you know...
Yeah, I think that's the main thing with you, to be quite frank with you.
For a point.
Yeah.
But I feel like the people that stood by and let it happen should still be culpable and they should still go to prison.
So could they be rehabilitated?
But yes, I think those people could be rehabilitated because they didn't take part, they just stood by. Whereas people that physically took part, I don't feel have an excuse. I feel if you have it in you to take part, that's it. You're done. That's it. Your humanity is gone and you deserve to die. But if you stand back, you're equally as bad because you haven't done anything to prevent it, but you also haven't partaken. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You can still be saved, but the people that take part, there's no saving. I'm sorry, there's no saving.
Okay. That's that, because I think that's something that we're going to be covering a lot in this. That maybe not rehabilitation, but the culpability of people within this kind of dark kind of stuff, and it is all horrible, obviously, but how much one person is responsible for another person's actions, kind of thing. And I think this is something that we'll talk about a lot more during this kind of thing. And it is something that's always interested me, because I've always said I think the prison system is about rehabilitation, regardless of what you have done. Obviously, some people need to be away for years and years and years. Fred West, Rose West, Myra Hindley, I think they have no remorse. They knew exactly what they were doing going into it. But then there's other people who are not as culpable. But as we progress this, I think this is a discussion that could become more and more. But yeah, that's interesting to see that we're kind of both on the same page, but there is going to be more discussions about that.
Okay.
But on that bombshell, this has been the MO Podcast with me, Consummation Sant.
And me, Atreya.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we shall see you next time. Bye.
Bye.